Hey, all right guys, how's it going? It is day, I think 102 today, and I'm in Lander, Wyoming. We don't have a hiker interview today on this 0 day, but I did just want to kind of catch you up because it's been a while since I sort of sat down and updated what I'm planning on doing for the trail, and things are about to get weird. Before we sort of get into that, just want to talk about some of the chores that I've been doing here in Lander. Lander, as some of you may or may not know, was kind of the official, unofficial beginning of grizzly territory. So there's a lot of extra chores, sort of equipment shuffles and things like that. I thought I'd just take a minute, kind of bust through some of the stuff I've been doing, some of which is related specifically to grizzlies, some of it is not. So I forgot to mention in yesterday's video, I gave myself a haircut. My sister in this sort of resupply box that I had sent out here with equipment, different equipment. I asked her to go ahead and throw in my clippers, so kind of cleaned up the beard, cleaned up the head a little bit, gave myself a haircut. Couple other things that were sent out in the new in the gear box. I have brand new shoes. I have a new pair of hiking gloves because my old hiking gloves have been going for 1,600 miles since the beginning of the trail. I had brand new trekking pole tips to replace and sort of freshen up the tips that are on the ends of my trekking pole. I also got a new pair of Patagonia Quandary pants. So it's more or less the exact same pair as I've been wearing, same color, but instead of being the convertible shorts, they're just solid pants. They're not adaptable into shorts, which is fine because I think only maybe once or twice this whole trail have I actually switched my pants into shorts by way of removing that bottom leg piece. She also sent out my 20-liter sack, which is like theoretically a bear-proof, critter-proof, which is to say mouse-proof and chipmunk and all that. Sort of like a food safety bag. Along with that, she also sent out 2 op sacks, which are odor-proof plastic bags. So basically the idea is, instead of using my Dyneema food bag from here on in, I'm sending that home. I've already sent that home, and I have a 20-liter sack, which is pretty darn huge. And inside of that sack will live the 2 op sacks, the odor-proof bags, and inside of those 2 odor-proof bags will live all of my food, my stove, all of my chapstick and snacks and trash and stuff like that. Basically anything that stinks will live in there, with the exception of some insect stuff. So here in town I bought a carabiner with which to hang that sack a little more effectively. I bought some Natrapel brand picaridin, which is a mosquito repellent that I've had tremendous success with over the years. Really like it because it isn't DEET, so it won't melt any plastic clothing, and it isn't a neurotoxin. But yeah, the Natrapel picaridin, I'm going to be carrying that, and I expect using it quite a bit. But I did also, just because I've heard such horrifying stories of the mosquito conditions up ahead, I did also buy some Ben's 100% DEET insect spray. So hopefully I'll just kind of carry that for the first jump, and if the picaridin is working fine, then I'll get rid of it. Then I'll get rid of the DEET, I should say. I did also buy a head net, which may or may not be useful moving forward. I expect it hopefully may be useful. I didn't mention, but I did also purchase some permethrin. So you may or may not know that at the beginning of the trail, before I got on trail, I got pretty much all of my clothing treated by Insect Shield, is like a company that does a professional permethrin application. But you know, obviously I didn't have these new pants when I sent stuff off to Insect Shield. So I did buy some permethrin and retreated, treated for the first time those pants, but then since I had it, I went ahead and retreated my socks, my hat, my buff, and my hiking shirt, all that stuff treated with a fresh coat of permethrin, which is, again, kind of like a clothing treatment, which should keep ticks and mosquitoes off of me and away from me, which would be really nice. Let's see, so that's all that stuff. I did, moving into bear country, as I mentioned, I already have different sort of food storage methodologies moving forward with the sack and the odor-proof op sacks, if you will. All that stuff I do plan on moving forward, eating for the last time for the day. I mean, probably a minimum of a mile away from camp, more likely an hour away from camp. That'll be my last time that I eat at all, brush my teeth, and then keep hiking. This will be for the whole rest of the trail, because the whole rest of the trail is grizzly country. And then I'll have all my stuff buttoned up in its op sacks in the sack, and then I'll hang that sack, again, probably, at least a few hundred yards away from camp, if not even further potentially. yeah, grizzly country's pretty serious. I did also go ahead, just out of kind of an abundance of caution. Probably a lot of hikers will laugh at this, but I did go ahead and just kind of, as I mentioned yesterday, I think, washed my tent in the bathtub here at the hotel. I did also wash my pack. I don't think either one of those would have been particularly problematic as it comes to grizzly attraction. Whoa, go on. But I just wanted to be overboard, do a little extra. So I did mail home, as I mentioned, I mailed home my food bag. I also mailed home the bag balm, which I've been using for my fingertips, which had been splitting. Basically my move for that had been to get those cheapy gloves and the bag balm, treat my fingers, put on the gloves, and then bunk up and go to sleep. But really, I don't really want to do that in grizzly country. I don't want to have stinky fingers, and I don't want to have stinky gloves in my tent at all while in grizzly country. So I just went ahead and mailed that home. I would have probably just ditched the bag balm and the gloves if it weren't for the fact that I also had my $50 Dyneema food bag, which I love and did want to keep. Let's see. I also mailed forward to Jackson, which isn't on the CDT. But I'll get there. I did mail forward to Jackson some leftover food that I had. I took inventory of all the leftover food that I had and kind of made sure that I had enough food to get me to where I'm going once I leave Lander tomorrow, which gets me into the trail moving forward. So the trail moving forward out of Lander, basically you can either do like 170 miles to get to Du Bois or Dubois, I don't know what it's called, DEBO. I think, Du Bois, I don't know, Wyoming, 170 miles. I wasn't going to do 170 miles, and frankly, I'm not even going to go to Du Bois at all. What I'm going to do out of here, the sort of halfway imperfect bail option between here, Lander that is, and Du Bois is a town called Pinedale. The bummer about Pinedale is that it's like a 14 or 15 mile hike off of the CDT to get to a trailhead, the Elkhart trailhead, from which you can hopefully catch a hitch into Pinedale. So that's kind of the plan. I'm going to carry 3 nights, basically 3.5 days of food out of Lander, and then hike 70 miles or so, whatever, give or take, to Pinedale, and then spend 1 night in Pinedale, bang out a quick resupply, and then get back on trail. So basically, the direction I'll take is I'll get to sort of the bail point for that 14-mile hike down to Elkhart trailhead. I'll hike over to that trailhead. I'll hopefully hitch into Pinedale, and then spend the night, jump back, and then instead of going all the way back along the same familiar alternate which took me down to the Elkhart trailhead, I'll get back to the Elkhart trailhead, hopefully hitch back to the Elkhart trailhead, and then take a slightly different route. I think it's like the Seneca Lake Trail, which will get me back onto the CDT by way of having skipped about 9 miles to include Lester Pass on the CDT, which is a bit of a bummer, but it is what it is, because 1 week from today, my folks are going to be landing, my parents are going to be landing in Jackson and spending 5 nights there. The plan from the very beginning had been for me to go to Jackson, as you may or may not know, depending how long you've been watching these videos. There's like a bee who's just so interested in me, or a wasp or something. Depending how long you've been watching these videos, you know I've been interested from before I even got on this trail to hike an alternate over to Jackson and then north to do the Grand Tetons. Well, that's still very much the plan, and I've invited my parents out. Have been very interested to come see me on this trail as they did last year on the AT, and I think we've pretty much coordinated that they're going to be meeting me over in Jackson. So once I leave Pinedale, I'll hike back to the Continental Divide Trail. Where I rejoin the Continental Divide Trail, assuming I take the Seneca Lakes Trail to get back to the CDT, where I rejoin the CDT, is pretty much almost exactly at the junction for the Knapsack Col alternate. I didn't mention, let me back up, before I take the alternate to go to Pinedale, I'm going to take an alternate to do Cirque du Towers for sure, because that's something that you absolutely have to do on this trail. Another thing you absolutely have to do is what I'll be doing once I get back on trail from Pinedale, and that is the Knapsack Col alternate. So that's like a 14-15 mile alternate. Takes you over Knapsack Col, Knapsack-Col, Knapsack Col. Beautiful, beautiful part of the trail, allegedly. I've never seen it. But then basically once I get back onto the CDT after Knapsack Col, I'll be bearing pretty much due west. I've charted my own little course that's going to take me basically from where Knapsack Col rejoins the Continental Divide Trail west into the Grovant Wilderness, or Gros Ventre if you want to grossly mispronounce it, I think. I was corrected by Mummy, the Frenchman with whom I'd been hiking a couple days. Grovant is apparently how that's pronounced. So I'll hike from basically where Knapsack rejoins the CDT, across some flatlands and then into the Grovant Wilderness, and then spill off from the Grovant Wilderness further west to drop into Jackson, Wyoming, where I will likely maybe be doing some slack packing or maybe just kind of hanging out with my folks and taking it easy. I'm not really sure. And then out of Jackson, hiking due north, staying off the CDT, due north through the Grand Tetons, and then finally rejoining the CDT in Yellowstone. So I called Yellowstone because I've been thoroughly confused about their regulations and sort of permitting requirements and reservation system and all that as relates to CDT hikers. Basically, it looks like most CDT hikers, if you're following the official, if you will, CDT, pretty much only do 2 nights in Yellowstone. There's not, despite the fact that there's 1,000 miles of trail in Yellowstone, the CDT section of Yellowstone isn't that long. So so what I plan on doing is spending the rest of today kind of wrapping my head around all of the alternates that I could potentially take through Yellowstone. I was on the phone with a backcountry ranger from Yellowstone this morning, and she kind of gave me all sorts of great insights as to things that I probably don't want to miss in Yellowstone. I think what I'll probably wind up doing is once I leave Jackson, once I hike through the Tetons, and once I enter into Yellowstone, I'm considering maybe just doing a longer stretch through Yellowstone and exiting through the north side of the park. Kind of TBD on that as well. All of Yellowstone is still tentative, but I'll be spending at least 2 nights in Yellowstone, potentially quite a bit more, potentially double that or even more than that. And then, you know, who knows? Maybe leaving on the official CDT, having done just 2 brief nights in Yellowstone, or potentially leaving to the north, out of the north side of Yellowstone, because I'm considering taking after Yellowstone, very much considering and probably, in fact, going to wind up taking what's called the Big Sky alternate through Wyoming. So, or through the southern half of Montana. The CDT out of Yellowstone kind of tends to ride most officially the Idaho-Montana border, the west side of Montana, the east side of Idaho. I've heard that section is kind of skippable, and I know that last year everyone on the CDT skipped it because of really bad fires. So between the fact that what was there, I'm told, wasn't really all that beautiful to begin with, and all the fires that were out there last year, and I don't know how much that's cleaned up this year with respect to blowdowns and burnouts and stuff like that. I'm thinking I'm probably going to wind up taking the Big Sky alternate. The other cool thing about the Big Sky alternate is that it's going to, well, the bad thing is that it's going to wind up skipping a few hundred miles, if you will. It's going to be a shortcut, if you will, on the CDT. There's a big old truck going by. That's the bad thing about the Big Sky alternate. The good thing about this Big Sky alternate is that it gives me a couple of opportunities to see a little more of Montana. I'm really interested to see some of that sort of south central side of Montana. I'm interested to check out the town of Big Sky, which I understand is very cool. I'm also interested to check out the town of Bozeman. Interested to maybe check out the town of Helena, which are most accessible if I take the Big Sky alternate. And then I'll kind of rejoin the CDT at Butte, Montana, I think is where I plan on kind of like getting back on the official trail. So having spoken with Martin, he's going to be doing his totally own thing. He's more interested to see some of the towns, as you may have gleaned from our interview a few days ago, or a little hiker chat a few days ago. So he's going to be doing his own thing. I think he's going to go to Du Bois, but I'm not exactly sure. No, he's jumping off from Pinedale. He's going to jump off at Pinedale and then start going through some small towns through the rest of Wyoming, and I think he's planning on jumping back onto the CDT at the same point at Butte. And Midnight, I don't know, she's still a couple days behind. I know she was planning on redlining, taking the main CDT the majority of the way, with the exception of those 2 ever so popular alternates, Cirque du Towers and Knapsack Col. So that's kind of my plan moving forward. That's all the stuff I've been doing in Lander on this zero and the half day yesterday. That's my plan moving forward out of Lander. And it's quite a lot, man. But I'm hoping once I get to Jackson, and actually have like a proper hotel and a couple proper meals with my folks, I might be able to look more into like the exact details of which trails I want to take through Yellowstone and then north on the Big Sky alternate, which makes it sound very official, but to my understanding, there isn't really like a super well-defined Big Sky alternate. I could be completely wrong, but I haven't found it yet. So I kind of got to wrap my head around all that, because once I start diverging from the CDT, I kind of lose the safety net of the Far Out app and kind of the trodden, well-traveled towns that are associated with this trail. So we'll see. But yeah, anyways, down in Lordsburg, when I started this trail, before I started this trail, in the days leading up to this trail, I did a kind of video sort of like this, giving you some idea of what I expected for the trail. And now I thought it would be appropriate, just about the halfway point, a little past the halfway point, to go ahead and let you know what the rest of the trail is going to look like for me and what I'm expecting. And frankly, what I'm expecting from the rest of the trail is like just the most amazing scenery. I mean, this trail is definitely, if you're a southbounder, this trail is kind of front end heavy with respect to scenery and sights, and I'm expecting it to be just absolute madness. Pretty much from the minute I get back on trail tomorrow and get into the Wind River Range, I'm expecting the winds to be absolutely fantastic. You know, I'm expecting Gravant Wilderness to be amazing as I make my way over to Jackson. I expect the Grand Tetons to be mesmerizing and just super, super inspiring. And clearly Yellowstone is famous for no shortage of reasons, I'm quite sure. So I expect Yellowstone to be amazing. And then the Big Sky alternate through Montana, through the south half of Montana, is going to be just really, really, really cool. And after that, I mean, we start getting into like, you know, the final portions of the trails. We start getting into like the Bob Marshall Wilderness and then Glacier at the end. So we still have the China Wall. Yeah, there's just so much stuff to talk about that's going to be coming up on this trail that I really truly don't have time or an understanding enough to explain how excited I am about some of these sections coming up. So anyways, that is a heck of a 0-day wrap for what I've done, what I still have to do, what's coming up. I'm gonna get back into the room and out of this heat and kind of dry up some of the sweat that's on my body now, and maybe drink a beer, maybe kind of hang out a little bit and relax. Hopefully there's time to relax on this 0-day, but make no mistake about it, man, 0 days are very rarely restful. There's always something to do, and hopefully this video has helped you understand what some of those chores sort of look like. So yeah, anyways, we'll get back to it, and I will check in with you guys, more trail videos, the super exciting Wind River Range starting tomorrow. So see you then.